People who grew up in the 1980s carry a psychology that feels invisible to the modern world. They were raised in a time that sat between two extremes, not as harsh as the past, but nowhere near as protected as today. No smartphones, no constant stimulation, no one checking in every 5 minutes. Just freedom, boredom, discipline, and real consequences. And that childhood didn't just shape their memories. It shaped how they think, how they trust, how they handle pressure, and how they survive modern life. If you want to understand people who grew up in the 1980s, you have to understand one thing first. They grew up during the last slow era. Life didn't rush them. Information didn't chase them. Attention wasn't constantly stolen. Their minds learned patience before distraction ever existed. And that single difference changed everything. First, comfort with boredom. People from the 80s grew up bored, and that boredom did something powerful. It forced their brain to create. They imagined games, invented stories, sat with their thoughts without panic. This built a level of mental endurance that's rare today. They don't fear silence. They don't panic when nothing is happening, because their mind learned how to stay occupied without stimulation. Second, emotional self-reliance. In the 1980s, emotions weren't constantly discussed. You weren't asked how you felt every hour. You were expected to figure things out internally. This didn't make them emotionless, it made them self-regulating. People from this era learned to sit with discomfort, process it privately, and move forward without needing validation. That's why they often appear calm under pressure. Not because life is easy, but because their nervous system learned resilience early. Third, strong sense of responsibility. Children in the 1980s were trusted with responsibility. You walked places alone. You solved problems without adult supervision. Mistakes weren't rescued instantly. And psychologically, this created something powerful, a deep belief that I can handle life. Even today, this generation doesn't immediately look for help. They troubleshoot first. They adapt. They endure. Their confidence didn't come from praise. It came from experience. Fourth, slower dopamine wiring. People who grew up in the 1980s didn't grow up overstimulated. Entertainment required patience. Joy was delayed. Rewards weren't instant. This trained their brain to tolerate effort, which is why many of them can focus longer, don't need constant novelty, and feel overwhelmed by modern digital speed. Their brain was wired for depth, not constant hits. And that's why today's world can feel mentally loud to them. Fifth, quiet independence. This generation doesn't perform confidence. They don't announce growth. They don't chase attention. They don't need to be seen constantly. Their independence is quiet. They learned early that life doesn't stop for feelings, and responsibility doesn't wait for motivation. That's why their strength often goes unnoticed, until things fall apart. Then they're the ones people rely on. Now compare this to people born after 2000. They grew up connected, but rarely grounded. Their brain has been absorbing stimulation since childhood. Notifications replaced boredom. Comparison replaced self-reflection. They're intelligent, creative, and expressive, but also mentally exhausted in ways the 80s generation never experienced. Two different environments, two different psychologies. Neither is weak. They were simply shaped by different worlds. People who grew up in the 1980s are the bridge. 1 foot in a world without noise, 1 foot in a world drowning in it. They remember life before the internet and are now forced to adapt to life ruled by it. That's why they feel grounded, why they don't rush, why their confidence feels real. Their strength wasn't taught, it was earned. Now, I want to ask you, did you grow up before 1985
or after it? And which generation do you think had it harder? Tell me in the comments. If this video made you reflect, subscribe to PsyShade. We don't judge the mind, we decode it. And watch these next. Why some people avoid social media. Why emotionally strong people stay quiet. See you in the next one.